Pelagic. For the next 3 weeks, this was home for 6 of us. Me, Will Glendinning, and 2 friends, fellow freediver TFB and sailor Dave Crump, and our boat's crew, Captain Magnus Day, Dr. Nick Carter, and our chef, Laura Arias. Rainbows and orcas waved us off from Puerto Williams, and we wondered what lay ahead. We'd decided to take the long route to Antarctica, sailing as far south as we could before sea ice stopped us going any further. We were sailing to Antarctica's Marguerite Bay. After 4 days of sailing, we'd seen nothing but waves. Then, as we approached the Antarctic Circle, we noticed something appear across the horizon, at which point everything changed. Icebergs. We've all seen photos of icebergs, but nothing quite prepares you for their scale. Some were enormous, the size of small countries, filling the horizon. Avoiding these floating, moving bergs by day was pretty straightforward. We could see them. By night, though, we relied on our radar for the large ones. Yes, all those blobs are icebergs. We kept a 24/7 watch system, looking out for the bergs too small for the radar, but big enough to do serious damage to our boat. All very Titanic-esque. After 6 days and nights of sailing, we finally saw it. Land. Antarctica. The challenge now, though, was finding a route into Marguerite Bay, through all the ice. As dusk came, the fog came too. And then visibility fell to just a few metres. Not great when navigating through ice. Eventually though, we found an anchorage. With daylight though, wow. Three things struck us. 1, Antarctica is breathtaking. 2, Antarctica is big. And 3, our 3 weeks was nowhere near enough time to do Antarctica justice. The scale of Antarctica is phenomenal. With there being no trees or buildings anywhere, getting a sense of scale was tricky. What looks like cliffs towering above you just a few hundred metres away were in fact a couple of miles away. With our first dive came another issue, one that threatened to scupper our entire freediving expedition. Visibility, or the lack of it. Even here, just 10 metres down, it was like floating in soup. Things didn't improve any deeper, it just got darker. Summer in Antarctica sees plankton blooms reduce the water's visibility, so we knew it wasn't going to be great, but this was ridiculous. Still, every great Antarctic expedition has its problems. Maybe this would be ours. Or maybe visibility would improve. I went to Antarctica thinking the experience was going to be all about its wildlife. In truth, it ended up being much more about the landscape and the environment. The wildlife, though, was in abundance. Seals for days, some hanging out on icebergs. Other seals preferred sea ice and didn't seem to mind freedivers sharing their ice either. I should mention penguins, of course, too. They're all over the place, thousands of them. There's not much more I can say about them, really. They are properly cute, though. We nipped into fabled humpback territory, Wilhelmina Bay. I know, you couldn't make it up. And as the day drew to a close, finally a pair of humpbacks, sleeping. When they finally woke up, they didn't seem that bothered by me. As they woke though, I heard something else just behind me. Another pair of humpbacks. I was clearly popular. An organisation with a very long acronym as its name does all it can to protect Antarctica. They stipulate how close humans can get to whales. From this distance, the Antarctic soup meant they were impossible to see underwater. Above water, things were pretty spectacular. If your idea of great freediving is underwater exploration, all this ice meant only one thing: some of the most amazing and ridiculous freediving.
Yes, that crystal clear ice is perfect in an après-dive drink. Surrounded by glacial ice, constantly carving, shifting and crashing into the sea is awe-inspiring to see and hear. What we weren't expecting though was quite how intimidating this sounds when you're underwater. Each time we got in the water, our boat's crew seemed ever more bewildered as to why we wanted to get into cold water with constant threats from leopard seals and unstable icebergs. Risks aside though, after a few days we were beginning to discover the practical and tolerable limits of freediving in polar waters. With all the gear, everything takes far longer than it usually does. Then there's the diving in water that's between 1 and minus 1.4 degrees Celsius. For an hour, you're absolutely fine. After 2 hours, you begin to feel, well, chilly. We don't have any data for longer than 3 hours. Before I'd visited Antarctica, I couldn't work out why more people hadn't freedived there. And if you only like crystal clear warm water, Antarctica clearly isn't for you. However, if your affinity with water is anything like mine though, freediving in a place that is shaped by and largely made of water is a pilgrimage worth making. Talk of Antarctica is often and rightly centred around science, conservation and how what happens here affects the rest of the planet. It can be all too easy to overlook this place's dramatic, breathtaking magnificence in its own right. For me anyway, freediving in this strange, brutal environment crafted over billions of years was unexpectedly moving. The experience highlighted just how brief our own species' presence on this planet is likely to be and how astonishingly fleeting and fragile our own individual existences. What each of us chooses to do with this information is a deeply personal choice. For me though,
I can think of no better way of filling what little time we have than by doing amazing things with amazing people in amazing places, like sailing to and freediving in Antarctica.